Thank you. Hey, great to see everybody this morning. It's been an unbelievable weekend for Purdue, and I'm as excited as anybody about what's transpired. We had a good weekend for volleyball, in my opinion. We had a good road trip, went to two pretty good offensive teams, so I thought that was a good sign for us moving forward. Got a great opportunity now with the NCAA Tournament. We did get selected to play. We're going to Louisville, and we'll play Tennessee, a team that we had played, I think, the second day of the regular season. We played them, and this will be a lot different. When we played them, both Tennessee and Purdue did not have a lot of time to really prepare for each other. We both had played two matches the day before, and matter of fact, we had about, 45 minutes after our previous match with, I think it would have been Loyola of Chicago, who also made all four of those teams in that tournament made the NCAA tournament this year. So it was a pretty good opener and a good RPI event. But we didn't have a lot of time to really get a lot of work as far as preparation for Tennessee, nor did they with us. So this will be a different scenario where we'll have all week to kind of process who they are and what they like to do, and they'll have the exact same thing for us. So we're playing in what's it called? L&N Credit Union Arena, which to my knowledge holds about 1,000 to 1,100 people. How many? 1,334. Well, their biggest crowd ever down there has been about 1,200. So I don't know, and I think they've packed it before. So maybe that's standing room only. But my point is that if you want a ticket, good luck, because we're having a hard time getting enough for our families at this point. I think we get a total of 100 tickets for our entire travel group and their families. So it's tough right now. But hopefully some more will open up, and our kids will be able to get their families there to watch. NCAA tournament's a pretty big deal, and so we're looking forward to it. And right now our focus is getting prepared for a Tennessee team out of the SEC that's got really good athletes, and we have our work cut out for us. So, Sam, you got the mic.
Last night, Maddie Skimmerhorn said, yes, we lost to Penn State. Yes, we lost to Nebraska, Ohio State in recent weeks. But she feels like there's a lot of positive momentum going into this tournament. Just how have those losses, but competing against some of the best teams in the country, really carried over to this point now where, you've got a lot of experience, you've got a competent team going into this thing?
We've seen a lot of really good teams. Our biggest issue, Sam, is we haven't beaten a lot of them. And we've squared off against them. We've played some of them really tough. I mean, Wisconsin wins the league at 19-1, and we had them in our gym up 24-21, I believe. At least we served several set points in the fourth set to take it to 5. Could not do it. Ohio State beat us here in 4, but they were really impressive in that run. But we've lost to some really good teams. Unfortunately, they look at your success against top 25, and our success was not good. It was 1-9, but our top 25 are top 10. So I mean, it's one of those things with RPI. Again, don't get me started on RPI. I think the committee did a fine job. It's a really hard thing to try to pick the top teams in the country, especially this year. So I mean, we're fine where we're at. I thought that we got seeded a little bit worse than I expected, to be honest, based on what I know about the way things work. But I'm okay with where we're at. We're staying close to home. I thought that was going to be great for our fans, but now it turns out it may not be as good of a deal because the gym's just not very big. And I just hope that they handle things fairly down there, that each team gets their fair share of fans to come in. It's not going to be where it's going to be all Louisville and then every team gets 100 tickets outside of that. So we'll see how it works down there. But right now, I think our team is really excited. They've worked really hard to get to this point. And I agree with Maddie. I think we're playing really well. I think playing the best teams in the country, night in and night out, even teams that didn't make the tournament, have incredible talent in our league this year in particular. And I think it's benefited us. Our defense is getting better and better. We haven't seen the rise in our offense from a numerical standpoint, but I know how hard we're working on it every night in practice. I think that, once we get away from playing some of the best blocking teams in America, maybe we'll see some improvement in our hitting percentage.
You've had, I guess, 6 days now to process what you saw Raven do at Maryland. Have you seen anything like that in terms of just being able to stop opposing hitters?
Well, she's an electric player, all the time. Volleyball is not unlike a lot of other sports. Sometimes it's just the way the ball bounces. And some of the blocks that she was getting on another night may have went off her elbow or off her wrist and gone out of bounds or come back on our side, or you never know what might happen. But you play hard enough, long enough, then you're going to have, a weekend like she had. Not only was she really good against Maryland, where she broke the school record, she was also very good against Penn State. And that's a reflection of how hard she works, Sam. Nobody can look at Raven Colvin and say she doesn't work hard. We know she's got good athleticism, but she's 6'1", and she just broke the school record for blocking. And that's, to me, that's just a credit to her intensity, her drive, and her desire to be successful.
What is the situation with Meg Renner?
Well, Meg got hurt about 2 weeks. Well, how long ago was it? Maybe in the match against Nebraska. I don't know how long ago that was. Seemed like a while ago, but I guess it wasn't that long ago. She was released to be able to participate against Penn State. We used her for about 4 points, and she didn't move extremely well on one of those plays, but she was back in the gym doing some setting, and hopefully she'll be able to go again this weekend.
If she's not, Grace came in that Tennessee match early in the year, and I think even though she had a lot of experience, she now has a lot of experience with this group. How has she grown, just, whether it was a reserve setter or, recently when she's had to be the go-to setter?
Yeah, the Tennessee match was her coming out party here at Purdue. Nobody knew much about her, including us. And she came in and really led us to a good win after we lost the first set to Tennessee. She came into the match, and we responded very well to that. She gets better all the time. She goes into some of these matches where she's never played before, against teams she's never competed against before, and that's not easy. That's a big deal when you've been grown up looking at the Big Ten from somewhere else, and all of a sudden you get into the Big Ten. It takes some toughness and some calm, and she's done a really good job of showing that throughout this season. And chances are she's going to go on Friday night. She will be the person that starts that match on Friday night against the Tennessee team that she played very well against in Knoxville. So we'll see how it goes. I mean, I think that matchups are really important when you come to NCAA tournament play, just like it is in any other sport. But matchups are huge in volleyball. And once the match starts, we'll get a better idea to see how big we have to be at the net from a blocking standpoint versus somebody that can run the ball down all over the floor.
Last thing you said all year long, if we get in this tournament, we're a dangerous team. And, I don't know that you anticipated playing an SEC opponent in the first round at the time, but what has led to the success that you've had? I don't think you've ever lost in the first round, in the 20 years that you've been here. What's
led to the success of this team or led to our success that we've had? Well, I think something we've already talked about. We've played 20 matches of Big Ten volleyball. And every week you play in the Big Ten is kind of like what we get ready to do now. You're going to play two really good teams, in this case on the road. So I look at what we did last weekend. You play Maryland one night, and then you play Penn State the next. This isn't a whole lot different than that, okay? Both those are on the road. One of these will be on a neutral floor. The other one will, if providing we can win, providing we can find a way to get by Tennessee, then we would probably play Louisville, who's the heavy favorite to beat Samford. And we're doing that all year long, playing against those kind of teams. And you're preparing for great athletes, great setters, tremendous hitters, good blocking, good defensive teams. So when you get into the tournament, it's just, the next week. And so I think that helps. I think that we've done a good job of preparing. That's one of the things I think our staff does is we prepare well most of the time for our opponents. We have a process that our players can relate to and understand. And it won't differ this week. It'll be just like it was last week in how we go about our preparation. Thanks, Sam. Good to have you back.
Thanks. Appreciate it. Coach, not to steal one from Sam's book, but Maddie said last night that she's really noticed how the team as a whole, it's a whole different team since the start of the year when you guys played Tennessee and Louisville. In what ways, what's the biggest way you've noticed how this team has changed since then? And then kind of a two-parter, can the same be said for Tennessee and Louisville?
We were a completely unknown quantity at the start of the season. Nobody really knew what to expect. We knew we had some physical tools in our bag, and that, I thought we would be better than a lot of people expected. But we didn't know for sure at that point in time when we played Tennessee. We were able to manage our way through 2 matches against Bowling Green, who won the MAC, and Loyola of Chicago, who won. Is that the Horizon? Am I guessing right there? Huh? You think so?
I think they moved to A10 this year, right?
Yeah, they did. They were Dayton. Thank you very much for that. And so we won those in 3, but they were not easy. And then we ran up against Tennessee. But I think we're better because we've improved a lot and gained so much depth. There aren't many programs that have 2 setters that you can throw at people that are very, very good, and you have a lot of confidence in. Our backcourt, although we only have 4 because we had people out at times during the season, they gained a lot of experience, and all 4 of them are very, very good. Lourdes Myers, who played a ton against Penn State and has played quite a bit lately, is giving us a bigger, more physical blocker and hitter at the net that is really, really helpful. We've rotated left side and right side players some, so we've got depth there. If you've watched us play a lot, we don't hesitate to make changes, which is not typical for my career as a coach, okay, where we just can throw somebody else out there just because maybe we need a change and things are going maybe the wrong direction. We need to put somebody new out there, might give us a little bit of a lift for whatever reason, so we can make those kind of moves where other years we haven't been able to do that. So I just think in our gym, players get better. Playing in the Big Ten, players get better. They learn how to compete at the highest level. And then I think our depth has improved a lot at this point in time, and we probably have more depth than most teams in the country.
Gotcha. And, going on to some of the depth and things that have changed throughout the year, noticed in past games I think Grace had consecutive double-doubles, Eva's have picked up. Is that something rotation-wise you've implemented or worked on throughout the season, kind of that they're getting more backcourt looks and getting those digs?
I'm not sure I follow that question for sure. Rephrase that for me.
Okay. Looking at kind of how Eva's defense has improved from the start of the year.
Yeah, her defense has improved a lot because she was not – it's a tall order to come in as a freshman and just try to play 3 rotations in the front row and be as good as she was. And then I think early on she felt like her role was an offensive player. And when she got in the back row, she felt like she needed to score points. She wasn't in the passing pattern all the time, but she did need to play defense. And as this season has progressed, you've seen an evolution in her knowledge and mentality that she has to make plays. And I think one of the reasons we've gotten better in the last month has been that she's made more plays defensively. And I think even Allie Horning, who has come here to play defense but was originally an outside hitter all the way through club and high school, she now is embracing the fact that she has to make plays in order for us to be successful. So our middle back play defensively, those girls both play middle back, and I think it's gotten so much better. And against this Tennessee team, that's a key position. They hammer a lot of balls that our middle back players are going to have to be alert and make plays on.
Gotcha. And you mentioned earlier just the strength and difficulty of deciding the top teams in the country. Can you speak to the parity of this tournament? And is it?
Well, I think there's been more parity in this country than there has been in the sport of volleyball, which is a result of more young women choosing to play volleyball in high school and club. It is the largest sport, team sport in America, and there's just so many great players, more than ever before. A lot of players that were choosing other sports are now in love with volleyball. And so when you have more players and there's still the same number of scholarships, that spreads out the wealth. And so I think that's a great thing. And I think that you'll see some upsets more this year probably than any other season.
Gotcha. And then last one for me. Do you think was there ever a possibility to have played in the larger facility at Louisville and not the?
I have no idea. I don't criticize them for playing in their home gym.
Sure.
We would do the same thing. When we host, we're going to play in Holloway Gym. We're not going to play to Mackey. I used to think they had a rule. I thought they had a rule on the capacity. It's not there anymore. But I thought, because we've hosted a lot of times in the sub-regional, And I thought they had a minimum number that they used to use, but they don't use that anymore. So I don't blame Louisville for playing where they're playing. It's just going to be hard in an NCAA tournament format when the sport's blowing up. I mean, I'm getting bombarded with people that are not family that want to know about how they can get a ticket, and they think I'm going to have one for them, and I'm not. So it's just one of those things. But it'll all work out. It'll be fine.
Coach, could you talk about how often do you get the chance to face in the NCAA tournament potentially two teams that you faced early on in the season out of conference? Like, how often would that?
Yeah, that's not happened a lot. I know there's been some years where we've played both Louisville and Kentucky here, but we haven't necessarily played them during the regular season. But they were a pretty routine thing early on. Back this year's a little bit different because they seeded the top 32 teams for the first time ever. Used to be they just seeded the top 16, and they tried to fill in with more local teams, which was not really as fair. But this year they've expanded to 32, which was a good move for volleyball by the NCAA. That probably creates less of that because more people are being sent further away, but not in our case. In our case, it's kind of like it was in the past. There's a lot of local schools that are right there in Louisville this weekend. But I think those matches were early enough in the year that they're not going to have a big impact on what we see. I think the fact that we played in that gym, 2 matches, we played Louisville and Xavier, the third week of the season, I believe it was. I think that benefits us from a comfort standpoint that we've been there. We know what the gym's like. We know the locker facilities. We know what it's going to be like getting around on that campus. So I feel good about that part of it. Thank you.
Dave, we see in the baseball playoffs sometimes pitchers get yanked early and they play those games differently with kind of a one and done. In terms of your strategy in timeouts and things like that, do you have to change anything and maybe call a quicker timeout than you would in a normal match to try to stem momentum?
Yeah, I really don't think so, Tim. I think that every match that we play during the regular season in many ways feels like an NCAA tournament match because the emphasis to win, to get into the NCAA tournament is so high, is so intent with our team that every match is pretty much treated like we have to win. And it may not be exactly the same, but I don't think you want to change the way you operate either. It could send a really bad message. I can remember watching a coach and got the Final Four and got down early, like 3 or 4-0 in a set and called a timeout. And I just thought it sent a pretty bad message to the team that the coach was a little bit nervous about that particular opponent or that match or whatever it might have been. So I think you pretty much have to stay who you are. Doesn't mean you might not call one early if you feel like something's getting away or you need to make an adjustment. We've called some early during the year because I felt like it was the right thing to do.
Lastly, understanding that all politics is local and you're focused on what you're doing here, any surprises for you in terms of teams in the field, teams not in the field? You mentioned you thought the committee did a pretty good job, but were there any surprises for you?
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I can't tell you a whole lot about the rest of the field. Yeah, I mean, I know that Ball State got in. I was happy for Kelly Miller, one of our former players here, whose team won the league and got beaten in 5 sets in the championship to Bowling Green and other 2 teams that we played. So I was happy that both those teams got in. I'm a MAC fan. I'm an alumni of a MAC school. So I was happy for them. But I couldn't tell. I mean, I know UCLA did not get in. There were some concerns about that. There were people thought Texas State should have gotten a bid, and they did not. They were comparing them with Ball State. So I know there was a lot of people. But right now, I've got Tennessee on my mind. Is that a song or was that Georgia? Yeah, I got
Write
Tennessee.
one. You got a week.
Yeah.
Go ahead and write one.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Bye-bye.